Debutify. I'm sure you've seen it around. You've probably seen all the 5-star reviews, the super happy testimonials. But you have to wonder, right? Is it all hype? Well, today we're cutting through all that marketing talk to get to the real story. This is the unfiltered, data-driven deep dive for anyone who needs to know if this theme is actually the real deal.
Okay, so let's just frame this whole explainer around one central question. Is a theme like Debutify, an all-in-one solution, a genuine shortcut to e-commerce success? Or are you kind of walking into a long-term trap without even realizing it?
So how are we going to figure this out? We've got a game plan. First, we'll look at the big promise. Then we'll check out the features that are supposed to make you money. We'll crunch the numbers, test the speed, uncover a pretty serious hidden risk, and then finally we'll give you a clear verdict on who this is for and who should probably stay away.
All right, let's start at the very beginning. What is the big idea behind Debutify? What's this promise that's so compelling that more than 200,000 businesses have decided to give it a shot?
Here's the key thing to get. Debutify isn't really just a theme. It's more like a whole toolkit for your store. It comes absolutely packed with over 90 different features and widgets, and they're all designed to do one thing: get rid of the need for you to go out and install dozens of different, often expensive, third-party apps.
And this, right here, this is the core trade-off. On the one hand, people love it because you can launch fast, everything looks clean and unified, and you can save a good chunk of change. But on the other hand, you've got that monthly subscription, a real danger of what's called theme lock-in, and you really have to manage its performance. It's a classic balancing act.
So that's the big promise. Now, let's get into the good stuff. How does Debutify actually deliver? We're going to dig into the specific built-in tools that are meant to turn your store into a conversion machine.
Now, we're not going to sit here and go through all 90-plus features. That would take forever. Instead, let's just focus on 5 of the heavy hitters. You've got things like a sticky Add to Cart button that's always on screen, product bundles to increase your order size, and cart goals like you're $10 away from free shipping, plus all the pop-ups you could want. And just remember, every single one of these is one less app you have to go find and pay for.
Okay, but what about the money? The bottom line. Is Debutify actually going to save you cash in the long run? Let's break down the costs and compare it to the traditional way. You know, grabbing a free theme and then stacking a bunch of separate apps on top.
Wow, okay, the numbers here are pretty stark. When you look at it, the Debutify Pro plan comes out to about $427 a year. But if you try to get that same level of functionality with a free theme, you're going to need at least 5 key apps. And that's easily going to run you anywhere from $780 to over $1,000 a year. The takeaway is crystal clear. From a pure cost perspective, Debutify can save you some serious money.
Okay, but here's the classic question for any e-commerce store owner. If you pack in over 90 features, does all that code bloat up and just slow your site to a crawl? We all know that a slow site kills conversions, so let's find out if that's a problem here.
We didn't want to just guess or go off of what other people were saying, so we did a proper, standardized test. We set up a clean Shopify store and ran it through Google's own page speed insights to get some cold, hard data.
And here are the results. Shopify's free Dawn theme, our baseline, is an absolute speed demon. It scores a 92. Now, Debutify, with just 5 simple features turned on, is still pretty zippy, scoring a 76. But look what happens when you start turning on 15 or more of those add-ons. The score plummets down to 58. This shows you the trade-off in black and white. The more features you use, the slower your site is going to get.
So is Debutify slow? The honest answer is it depends. The theme itself, out of the box, is not slow, but how you use it can make it slow. It's one of those with great power comes great responsibility situations. You have the power to add tons of features, but you have the responsibility to be strategic and keep your site fast.
But let's be real for a second. Page speed scores are just one metric. At the end of the day, the only number that really matters is revenue, right? So let's shift gears and look at how this theme actually performs out in the wild. Let's look at some real-world results. First up, let's talk about a coffee company called Laughing Pug Australia. They switched over to Debutify and saw their daily revenue jump by a mind-blowing 400%. No, that is not a typo. 400%.
So how on earth did they do that? Well, their big problem was they were just bleeding money on ads because their sales funnel was a mess. They used Debutify's built-in tools, specifically the sticky cart and the upsell bundles, to fix those leaks. And in just 2 months, they doubled their monthly revenue to over 100,000 Australian dollars. Incredible!
And if you thought that was wild, check this out. Next up is Milky Co., a gift company. Their story is just as impressive. They used Debutify to 5x the revenue. a 5-fold increase in sales.
See, they were stuck. They had hit this income ceiling and just couldn't seem to grow past it. So they started using Debutify's tools for product customization and cart upsells. And boom, they completely shattered that ceiling, scaling from $5,000 a month to over $50,000 a month. Just amazing.
Okay, those results are seriously impressive. I get it. But now we have to talk about the single biggest catch. This is the one major long-term risk that you'll notice most other reviews just conveniently forget to mention.
It's a concept called vendor lock-in. And what it means is, it's when the cost and the pure hassle of switching to a different product becomes so high that you're basically trapped. You're stuck with your first choice, whether you still like it or not.
And here's why this is a risk with Debutify. In a normal Shopify store, your design, your theme, and your functionality, your apps, are separate things. You can swap out your theme and all your apps are still there. But with Debutify, the design and all those features, they're fused together. It's a package deal.
So, what's the big deal? Well, if you ever decide you want to leave Debutify, it's a potential nightmare. You're not just switching a theme, you're losing all of your features at the same time. You would have to go out, research, install, and configure like 10 or 15 new apps just to get back to where you started. That is a massive headache and a huge hidden cost of time and money.
So that brings us to the final verdict. We've seen the good, we've seen the bad, and we've seen that hidden risk. Let's pull all of this together into a clear, actionable takeaway so you can make the right call for your business.
So, what's the bottom line? It really comes down to what you're trying to build. If you value getting started fast above everything else, if you're a beginner or a dropshipper, or if you just want to save a few $100 a year on app fees, then yeah, Debutify is a fantastic choice. But if you're playing the long game, building a custom brand that needs total flexibility and top-tier page speed, you're probably better off with a standard theme and app setup. At the end of the day, Debutify is an incredibly powerful tool. You just have to be sure it's the right tool for the job that you're trying to do.